Welcome to DC2B Revolution, helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. I'm Noah Volz, and today I have a guest who's not actually a chiropractor, but is doing some really important work for chiropractors. His name is Travis Hornsby, and he's the founder of Student Loan Planner. He helps chiropractors come up with a comprehensive plan of attack for their student debt so that they can save thousands of dollars and remove student loans as a major stressor in their lives. So Travis, thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Noah.
Yeah, so I know that there are a lot of options out there in terms of student loan repayment, and I don't want to get too much. Give kind of a short primer on what the student loan programs that are out there are.
Absolutely. So you really have a couple different major options. You have an income-driven option, and there's three main income-driven options out there: IBR, pay, and repay. We're going to address those in a second. So three options based on your income. Then you can also pay just straight up a flat fee, right? A flat amount. It's the same every month, doesn't change. You can pay that for 10 years. It's a standard 10-year plan. So that's another option that you have. And then the last option is doing something like a private refinancing. So you're going to like a SoFi or a Common Bond or something like that, and you're trying to get a lower interest rate. So those are the primary ways to pay back your loans. For most chiropractors, the income-driven options are going to be the best options. And we can discuss why that is. But typically what happens is a chiropractor is going to owe, in a lot of cases, a lot more than what they're making in their first couple of years of practice. And so to control the amount that you pay relative to the total amount, you need to pay based off of your income. But the problem is it's not that simple. You have to pay based off your income, and you have to do the right plan that's going to result in the most interest subsidies. So repay is the one that results in the most interest subsidies. So typically you're either going to be doing pay or repay to try to minimize the total cost long term. And a lot of chiropractors that are not in good high income situations relative to their debt, you actually want to do pay and repay for 20 to 25 years and prepare for the tax penalty and paying a big tax penalty all at once. And doing that, you can minimize the cost of your debt.
Great. So just kind of to recap what you mentioned is, most chiropractors come out of school with a significant amount of debt, at least six figures, sometimes, over 200,000. And so for them, the best options are these income-based repayment options. The pay and the repay options seem like the best, depending on the interest subsidies and everything else. You also mentioned kind of this ratio of debt to income. Is there kind of a sweet spot for chiropractors in terms of, their wages as in comparison to their debt?
Sure, there is. It's about 2 to 1. So if you owe more than double your income, then you really need to use these income-driven repayment programs, one of the three, to pay back your loans, just because the math just works out better that way. What I tell folks is this: so if your debt to income ratio is going to fall below 2 in the first 5 years out of school, then it's probably better to try to get aggressive with your debt, pay it down as fast as possible, try to refinance, try to get rid of it. If your debt to income ratio is not going to be below 2 to 1 for the foreseeable future, then you really need to focus on maximizing the student loan forgiveness benefits available under a program like pay and repay. And so I'll give you an example, right? Let's talk about some real life examples, because a lot of times people get lost in the abstractness of it, right? So let's talk about a chiropractor that's got 100 grand in debt. They come out of school, they owe they start making maybe 50,000 or 40,000 as an associate. So that chiropractor should probably do repay for the first year, because they're going to get an interest subsidy. So the government will actually pay part of the interest for them instead of them having to pay it themselves. That's really awesome, right? So this chiropractor, doing repay, try to get that interest subsidy, and but maybe long term, maybe they buy their own business, right? Maybe they buy a practice, they get set up, they start making like 80 or 90,000, and that person owed 100,000. So they're paying 6 point something percent interest, 7%, maybe more, when they really probably should be paying less. So that's when you would run a private refinance. That's when you go to one of these lenders, try to get a lower rate, maybe get a 5-year amortization schedule, at most a 10, and just power through it, just pay it off, right? Then you're debt free. Then you're on track for financial independence, for freedom. You don't have to think about debt as part of your long-term life plan anymore. So that's one kind of chiropractor. Now, let me talk about another kind. Another kind of chiropractor is somebody who is just making 60 to 70,000 long-term, can't seem to get it up beyond that level to practice practice chiropractic care the way they want to practice it. Maybe they owe over $200,000 and there's probably no chance that they ever make 100,000. So that type of person, you have to run the numbers. And that's what I do in my consult service is I run the numbers and show you what the cost of the different options are. But that person's going to be probably doing either pay or repay. And then what you're doing is you're trying to minimize the total payments, maximize forgiveness. And what does that mean? Okay, let's talk about what that means. I'm sure people are curious. So what you do is you would pay as little as possible by maxing your retirement account, by maxing your HSA, by getting all your taxable income as low as possible, so you can pay the rock bottom student loan payments, and then at the end you'll owe this big amount of money, and you'll have to pay a big lump sum in taxes all at once to the IRS. People is save $300 a month for 20 to 25 years, and you'll be able to pay the tax penalty, and you're saving for retirement. You're doing all these smart things with your HSA, your healthcare savings account. You're doing all these great things from a financial health perspective, and then your student loan debt is gone in 20 to 25 years, right about when you're kind of thinking about retiring. You have a fully funded retirement account. Your health, care is covered with this health savings account that you've been saving in for 20 or 25 years. And that's a great way for chiropractors who, frankly, just owe a lot of money relative to what they're earning to actually have a real solid financial future. So that's the message, is that no matter how high your debt, no matter how your income and all your debt interact, you can have a good financial future, and the pathway for each person is individualized.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you kind of brought that full circle and talked about, if your debt to income ratio is less than 2 to 1, then maybe the private financing options. If it's higher than that, then you're looking at more of these income based repayment options that you kind of explain, and looking at all the different ways that over time, depending on what the life cycle of the debt that you're carrying is, you can create, financial abundance for your future self. I think that's so important to think about. In terms of upstream options for people like me who are in school, who are getting, unsubsidized direct Stafford loans and Grad Plus loans, is there anything that I can do right now to kind of minimize the amount of debt I'm taking on?
Minimize Grad Plus. That's a weapon of mass destruction, in my opinion. Grad Plus is, you can't really avoid it in a lot of cases. To attend school, you have to take it because unsubsidized Stafford is capped. So any amount of money that you need on top of that is taken out from Grad Plus. But so Grad Plus has got over a 4% origination fee. So just for the privilege of cutting the check, you have to pay the government 4.27%. And then on top of that, the interest rate is usually 7 or 8%. So, and I just found out the Grad Plus interest rates are going to be 7% for this upcoming calendar year. So it's really high. And so, a lot of people, they'll take out extra because they'll think that, oh, I need the money this year, so I want to have it in my bank account just in case. Don't do that. Bad idea. Take out only what you need. Live on rice and beans. Live like a student because you are a student. Pretend that you're totally broke. If you have to live in a house with, if you're married, if you have to live in a house, share a house with another couple. If you're single, live in a house with, 4 or 5 roommates. Sacrifice, your future self will thank you. The people that I've spoken with that have had some difficulty have been, in some cases, they just went to expensive schools. In other cases, maybe they took out the maximum every year, or they didn't, live maybe as frugally as they could have. And really, when you're cutting your costs, all of the costs are probably coming off the Grad Plus column. So if you can cut any dollars, the Grad Plus is what you're cutting. That's the worst kind of debt. So that's really good. So, I hate to say be frugal and try to not take out any more than you have to, but that's the best advice for somebody in school.
Yeah, thank you. And something that we haven't really talked about, and actually one of the reasons I went to chiropractic school is that I thought that the public service loan forgiveness program was applicable to chiropractors. Can you talk a little bit about that program, its benefits, and how chiropractors fit in or don't fit into it?
Sure, I can. So unfortunately, chiropractors in general do not have access to the public service loan forgiveness program. And there's a couple reasons why. Most chiropractors are employed at for-profit employers. So most chiropractors are going to be working at non-qualifying employers. If you can compare chiropractors to physicians, physicians in most cases do work for 501c3 hospitals. So because they work for 501c3 tax-exempt organizations, they don't actually have to pay, or they actually get to pay back their loans on this public service loan forgiveness program because of the nature of the employer. Chiropractors, on the flip side, are working at a for-profit employer, so their loan forgiveness is taxable over 20 to 25 years instead of being 10 years and tax-free. Now, if I was a chiropractor and advocating for the profession, then I would, want to be lumped in with physicians and get some of those benefits. But realistically, public service loan forgiveness is under siege right now as we speak. I think that people that are currently on it will get it. I don't foresee any future additions to the program or any more generosity being given in terms of who they let in to the program. So I think the program will eventually be phased out, and anybody that's on it will get to use it. But future people trying to get into it, are going to have a hard time. So if a chiropractor, no, let's be frank. I've spoken with some chiropractors that have not been able to make the profession work for them. Okay, so I've actually talked to some people that are ex-chiropractors, and they go into different kinds of fields. I had one chiropractor that became a nurse because he just liked the idea of doing that better, and frankly, he did it for the public service loan forgiveness program. I'm being real honest with you, and he is working at a 501c3 tax-exempt hospital, going for loan forgiveness. He's got about $300,000 in debt after his chiropractic and nursing degree, and he's taking advantage of that. So, I've had some people that have gone to chiropractic school and have used public service loan forgiveness. It's very rare for a chiropractor. It's not that rare for somebody who decides to leave the profession and do something else and go work for a tax-exempt, qualifying employer.
Yeah, and when you say it's rare for the chiropractor, it's mainly because there's not these 501c3 jobs and government jobs for chiropractors out there. And the ones that are out there, though, those industries don't really know how to help the chiropractors apply for the PSLF. And it's never really, there's no real precedent that's been set. And by the time the precedent is set, is kind of what you're saying, is within the next 2 years, that program may not even exist because of the cost to the taxpayers. Is that right?
Well, it's going to exist, I think, for anybody who's signing up for it today, I think is going to get it 10 years from now. I mean, so I don't think that it's going to poof, it's going to be gone in 2 years. I think what's going to happen is the government's not putting any dollars away to pay for it. So it's I think it's $100 billion liability, if not more. And they're not putting any funds away to cover it. So if you're not putting any money away to cover something that's so expensive, currently the first person that gets PSLF gets it in October 2017. So we haven't yet had to deal with people getting their loans forgiven. So in that case, I think once you start seeing a lot of people getting their loans forgiven, I think in 2020 is when the first huge amount of people get forgiven. I think you'll see a front page story in the New York Times. Rich physicians get, hundreds of thousands written off thanks to the Uncle Sam, right? And it's going to be this big scandal, and the Congress is going to think, what did we do? And they're going to close it off for everybody taking out loans after 2020, for example. So I think that's what's going to happen. But for chiropractors, currently, there's not a lot of positions that exist. So what does that mean? What does that mean for a chiropractor? That means that you really have to make the most of this education that you paid for, right? You need to be owning your own practice, preferably doing, making smart business decisions, having a real solid plan, having a business plan, like what is your target, demographic group? What kind of community do you want to practice in? Is it saturated with a lot of chiropractors, or are you not competing against very many people? So that's the first point, is you need to be a practice owner to have, tax write-offs that you can do, have, more of an efficient payment of your income. The folks that I've seen that have not maybe made as good of a use of their education, financially speaking, have worked for other people, have been associates more long-term, haven't taken that practice ownership jump. So, truly, if you've already got the debt, then the best thing to do, kind of counterintuitively, is to go ahead and, be smart about it, have a good business plan, but add some more debt and go ahead and get a practice and try to increase your income potential.
Yeah, I talked to Garrett Gunderson with Wealth Factory, and that was exactly what he said. He said that, debt is important, but more important is your earning potential. And if you can earn more, then your debt becomes less of a liability. And so, he recommended that same thing of like starting your own practice, and really, education is expensive, getting the most out of education. At our school, we have this program called SALT. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I just wanted to ask if you'd heard of it. It's powered by the nonprofit American Student Assistance. Do you know anything about them and what they provide?
No, I haven't. Fill me in.
I basically, it's an online portal with a lot of like videos and articles and different resources, so you can kind of figure out what how much debt you're paying and how to repay that debt. And so I haven't spent a ton of time on that portal, but our financial aid department pushes that pretty hard, and so I just was curious if you've heard of it.
No, I mean, there's a lot of good resources out there to figure out how to pay back your student debt. I mean, here's the gist of my company, Student Loan Planner. There's a lot of free resources out there for chiropractors to use on my site. So, you can go to studentloanplanner.com. At the bottom, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page, I have all these categories listed. You can click the chiropractor category and see all the articles I've written on chiropractors and student loans. You can also click on the student loan calculator on my homepage, and you can get that for free. So that's, I think it's pretty fair to say it's the best calculator for understanding student debt anywhere on the website or anywhere really for that matter. So, and I give that away for free. Why do I give it away for free? I think a certain percentage of people are going to hire me for a one-on-one consult. And that's basically the cornerstone of my service. Is I offer one-on-one consultations to help people make up a custom plan. And I currently charge $199 for an individual and $289 for a couple that both have debt. So that's, to the extent that there is a dog in the hunt or a conflict of interest, that is mine. And yeah, maybe some of these other places are maybe not for profits. But if you think about it this way, I think in some cases you get what you pay for. And, if you make a mistake on your student loans, it could be a multi-$1,000 mistake, right? So the value add that my company is providing, the reason why it exists is, I don't want anybody making a multi-$1,000 mistake with their student loans. $200 gets you a plan to make sure you're doing the right thing to pay it back and not making any of those errors. So absolutely, get educated, right? Read everything. I mean, become a sponge or hire me to help you. But, preferably do both. I mean,
Yeah, and in terms of the timeline for working with you, do you recommend so I've got a year and a half left before I graduate. Do you recommend that I work with you sooner than later, or is it better to kind of see the actual amount of debt that I've incurred?
Yeah, so I recommend that people reach out to me about a month away from their graduation, or if they're already graduated, then reach out to me as soon as possible. So that's the best time to engage my service. However, you can engage the free services before you graduate. So the free services are all the free content I write, all the tools that I provide on my website. So I would highly encourage, any people that are currently in chiropractic school to go to studentloanplanner.com, read all those chiropractor articles that I've written, and that's just free education. So the reason why I don't work with people that are still in school is because the student loan repayment options could change between now and a year and a half when you graduate. So I don't want to give you a comprehensive plan that you're paying for and then have it change and have to go do it all over again when you graduate. So that's why I do it that way. However, it's still instructive and helpful to know what it would look like when you graduate, if you did graduate today. So I think that for that reason, I think going and self-provisioning on the website, reading all that content is really pretty helpful at studentloanplanner.com, just to get an idea of what things look like. I mean, you can go in and if you're 2 years into it and you have, 100 grand, and it's probably going to be another 100 grand when you graduate. So you have 200,000. You can go to the studentloanplanner.com/free free-student-loan-calculator is the full URL, I think. But you can just type in student loan planner calculator online and it'll take you there. You can put in 200,000, you can put in your expected income, and you can look at all the costs, the simulated cost of all the different options to pay back your debt. And you can do that for free. That's just what I want to do for people, is help them make a plan to pay back their debt and save as much money as possible.
Yeah, I'm so appreciative of that. I mean, I probably spent the last 2 or 3 hours just reading all the articles on your site. There's so much great information there. It's really accessible. It's really interesting. I think you've really done a fantastic job providing some free resources and some education that can really help people start to orient and design a strategy or a plan. And that's really what I found myself doing, is like, oh, okay, these are my options. This is how I need to think about that. Can I decrease my grad plus loan, in the amount that I'm taking out, looking at all those different options. I know you have a section for chiropractors. You have a section for medical professionals, veterinarians, dentists, lawyers. I wonder if you've done any research on other kind of complementary and alternative healthcare practitioners like naturopathic doctors or acupuncturists, and how their debt compares to chiropractors, because I know a lot of people kind of think about chiropractic and naturopathic and, are trying to decide between those different options.
Right. I mean, the more, let's be frank, the more traditional and established the profession, the better from a financial perspective. So the government does not discriminate based off of loans. And that means they hand out loans equally to every program that asks for it. So that means, any new school that is able to get federal loans gets access to them just the same as a medical school or a dental school that's been around for 150 years or something, right? So I guess what I'm saying is definitely chiropractic school is going to have a more sure return on investment compared to probably more an alternative medicine type thing. So I haven't worked too much with any, acupuncturists or alternative medicine folks besides, the chiropractic profession, really. So I shouldn't speak too much to that, but that's just my guess. If you look at chiropractors and veterinarians, the loan situation is significantly more challenging than a profession, say like medicine or something like that. If you look at law, maybe that's a little bit better than chiropractic, right? And maybe dentistry. Well, dentistry is interesting because it's just an absolute huge number. I mean, the average dentist is like double the average debt of a chiropractor. So it's each profession has its different wrinkles, right? So I guess what I would say to somebody that's trying to decide between the different paths is pick the path that you think you'll enjoy the most, that will put you in debt the least. So if you think you can become an acupuncturist and make $60,000 a year doing so, and you can come out of school with less than $100,000 in debt, do that if you like it. And then if you think you want to be a chiropractor and you can come out of school with $200,000 in debt but make a good income and own your own practice, then do that. But it's certainly a difficult decision. I think that I would just try to pick the one that's probably the more surefire ROI, return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense, really kind of choosing the one that speaks the most to you, and then also has the, lowest debt burden or the highest income generating potential. And I feel like, so many of the resources on your site, Student Loan Planner, really help with that. So I know that students are going to have questions that I didn't ask today and are going to want more information. You've already mentioned the site, and I've already, mentioned how helpful that is. Is there any other way that people can get in touch with you or reach out to you and learn more about what you're offering?
Absolutely. So you can email me. Email me is the best option. It's just Travis, my name, Travis@studentloanplanner.com. That's my email. Travis@studentloanplanner.com. Just reach out to me if you have questions. Love to hear from you. And if you want to look at my Facebook page, it's facebook.com/studentloanplan. Pretty straightforward there. And those are the two best options. Just either message me on my Facebook page or just email me is the preferred method, Travis@studentloanplanner.com. We'll love to hear folks if you got questions, or if you got a lot of debt or questioning your repayment strategy. Love to help.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll make sure to put those, in the show notes of the YouTube channel, just so they're easily accessible for people. So people who have more questions and, really want to find the answers and kind of develop their strategy and want to start thinking about this now, or maybe they're already chiropractors out in practice and things aren't going exactly as they'd hoped, they know that there's some resources out there for them. So this has been a production of DC2B Revolution, helping chiropractic students think big in order to live large. I'm Noah Volz, and thank you, Travis, for being here and sharing all your knowledge with us today.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Yes, and please subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave some comments below. Would love to hear from you, and have a great day.